truth is finally here.
And here we go. Not deep enough. Go a little more depth. There we go.
This video is for you guys that have been asking me how I would do a Mobile Tech Expo kind of deep dent. I know I promised this video at the show in 2017 and it's now 2018, but I just kind of forgot until a few of you reminded me. I finally had a good day with my eyes yesterday, so I figured this would be a good time to get it done. Sorry about the delay, guys. Also, I did this demo dent on a hood because I wanted to show a close-up of metal gathering up at the bottom of these type of dents, and I haven't figured out how to do that on doors yet because your camera gets in the way of your reflection board. We'll start in a few minutes, but first we're going to start with some basic metal theory. Okay, fellas, now this diagram of a deep dent from the side now. Impact point was there. Our metal from here to there wasn't affected at all. It's the same thickness from there all the way to about in there. Okay? Now, once we start getting near the impact area, in the green circle there, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner until we get to the impact point itself, which is very, very thin. That's what we're going to find at the bottom of that stretched metal dent we're going to be doing here shortly. So the area between the red lines there, that's your total amount of stretched metal, thinned metal. And remember guys, stretched metal means thinned metal only, nothing else. So from the red to the purple lines, that would be what we would call your stretch affected metal. It's not actually thinned, but it's under pressure, a lot of pressure from this stretched metal. And then once we get to the green, we've got normal metal. Now, if we just get under there with a ball tip and we start forcing that dent up, that stretched metal is going to be stretched continuously while we're trying to repair it, and once we get the dent level or near level, you're going to see your impact point very, very clearly, and you're going to have a hard time getting rid of it. But what we're going to do is use a much sharper tip than most people would normally use, and we're going to gather up the metal at the bottom of that impact point, all that thinned metal. We're going to gather that with a sharp tip tool. And what can help you sometimes to visualize all of this thinned or stretched metal at the bottom is to take that whole area and draw a line. It'd be about the same length there as from there to there. Now if I push on that, that is always going to be the same length. It's never going to change. But if I go in there with a sharper tip tool and put some what we call gathering pushes, I'm going to exaggerate it here now. Okay, pushes like that. So if you take both ends and stretch them back out, you'd have that same line. All we did by putting gathering pushes or shrinking pushes in there is to take that entire length and put it into an area that small. Of course, that's greatly exaggerated so you can see what we're doing here. So we're basically taking all that metal, putting it into a much smaller area, and that draws all that stretched metal together, draws the side of our dent together, and we're going to have a much cleaner, quicker, finer finish. This is called cold shrinking. Metal guys have been doing it for many, many decades. There are other methods of doing that. The new hot boxes that are out do that very, very well. I'm not talking about the T-boxes now, I mean the hot boxes. They do a very good job of that. Cold shrinking disc, which we'll do in another video, very, very effective way of gathering metal very quickly. Unfortunately, guys, we're limited because just about everything else besides sharp tip tools requires access to the back, and a lot of times we just don't have it. In fact, I'd say for a retail tech, the majority of the time, you're not going to have access to the back to use a hot box or a cold shrinking disc. This is where you have to learn how to use sharp tips, fellas, to gather that metal at the bottom of your dent. Okay, we're ready to get started, and I just wanted to show you the tools that we'll be using. Pretty much just one tool, a convertible tip tool. This one's from Ultradent. I prefer using PDR finesses because it is quite a bit stiffer than this one, but it's on loan along with a few other tools. Rodney, I want my tools back. I'm going to keep embarrassing you until you give them back to me. What we're going to do is start with a standard-off ball tip with a Waxman chair tip on it. I generally don't like the Waxman chair tip, but for this particular dent, it'll come in handy. I think it'll do a better job than the harder caps. And after we made a couple of mild pushes on that, we're going to switch almost immediately to our pencil tip. Just a standard pencil tip, and if things start falling apart on us, we might have to go to a needle tip. I don't think so, but you never know. Pencil tip will probably end up doing most of that dent for us. Okay? Let's get started.
Yeah, maybe it's a titch bigger than baseball. But we got some real good depth of that. As you can see in the center, the reflection doesn't go through it at all, at least in the overhead type of reflections. They're very, very pinched up, indicating a very, very deep dent. Yeah, this definitely does look toward the deeper end of what I saw at the 2017 show. They weren't all uniformed either. I also want to say I know many great techs have different ways of doing these dents than what you'll see here. And it's not my intention to say my way is better than anyone else's. The reason I do deep impacted dents the way you'll see here is because I believe there's too much stretched metal in the impact point to deal with any other way. I know many techs save the stretched metal for last, or that many use very blunt tools to do these. In my opinion, this will not get as fast and as clean a repair because the stretched metal needs to be dealt with first. This will make the finishing phase go much faster because the stretched metal was removed first so that it doesn't haunt you throughout the repair. Here, so with our rubber tip tool, going to put a few pushes in the bottom, and we're noticing right about there, it does not want to come up anymore. It's fighting us. Right there, noticeable difference in the amount of pressure that it's going to let me put on it. In fact, if I go any more than that, I'm going to force pressure from inside that dent outside the dent, and that's going to be a big, big problem for me. Right there, doesn't want to take any more. Lots of pressure would be required to move that anymore, so we're going to stop right there. So how do you know when to stop pushing a stretched impact area? That's easy. When the metal stops moving easily, you need to stop pushing. If you keep pushing past that point, you will move pressure outside the dent into the surrounding panel and make a lot of work for yourself. Okay, it's time to hook our starter board up. This is going to give us incredible detail right in the bottom of the deepest dent. And on this one, since it is so deep, we're going to have to use all three stripes, not just one. So we're going to put all three stripes on the board. And that's going to help us see right into the bottom of that dent as long as we got the board very close and high up over the dent. I'm going to be putting the board higher than that over the panel. I'm just doing that so that you can see the board. The camera makes that stripe look a lot wider than it really is. It is very wide, but not quite as wide as the camera is showing it. All right, we've got our mini light hooked up, and we're going to put that on right now. And you'll notice that makes the dent look quite a bit smaller. And what we're going to do now is try to get this adjusted where you can see it in the camera, so this might take a couple of minutes. We're going to try to zoom in on it a little bit there. Now, quite a few techs have a problem with the dent looking like that's something that deep. They say, but my dent shrunk up to almost nothing. Well, no, the dent's still the same size, but you can see your impact point far more clearly this way. It's a trade-off. I mean, the dent's still there, obviously, but I want to see where my money is. That's why I adjust my board like that. I don't worry about the dent looking small. My money is in the impact point. Now, this is when the boring part starts, fellas. Making a lot of very closely connected gathering or cold shrinking pushes. Very closely connected. Not enough to make any outies, but just short of that. Patience is what's needed here, as you really won't see any real difference in the dent until enough of that impact point and impact area has been cold shrunk or gathered. If you rush this part, you'll be sorry. You'll pay for it dearly on the backside of your dent. I'm having to share my reflection with the camera, so at times it's going to be a bit harder for me to see my tooltip. I'm looking on the very edge of my reflection and it kind of sucks. The camera's getting a great look at the reflection though. Okay, we are definitely starting to see the gathering effect happening. We are starting to move a little bit of metal now. Not a lot, but it is happening. Very connected pushes, and obviously the more metal we gather, smaller that dent gets. I'm going to get an 80% of that for free. I'm focusing right on that impact area. You know, everybody wants to see metal move. Well, you're not going to see that for a bit because we aren't moving metal. We're gathering or shrinking it, and that will move it. Delayed gratification is what it's all about here. You will see metal move eventually when the metal is ready to move, not when you want it to. One of the guiding principles of the Fairmont method of metalworking is damaged metal should move like water. Whenever you force it to move, you're leaving trapped pressure somewhere. What we always need to do is find where the trapped pressure is and move it into the damaged area as fast as possible. Doing these dents this way takes longer to move metal, but you more than make up for it on the speed of your finishing and quality at the end. Now in this dent, almost the entire pressure holding the dent in is the stretched metal at the impact point. That's why we remove this pressure first. As we do this, you'll see the rest of the dent flow smoothly out. And there will be no ghosting of the dent either, which is a very common problem with dents like this. I'll explain this a bit later. Probably the best way to prove this method for repairing deep dents to yourself is to make several of these deep dents and push a couple with a soft tip tool only. And you'll see a volcano looking area every time along with your impact area waiting for you, but now tightened up and harder to move. So you'll know that won't work. Then do a couple deep dents using a bare ball tip tool. And you'll notice when you get the bulk of the dent up, you also still see the impact point, but again now tightened up and harder to move. You'll probably also notice shoulders or even a small volcano effect going on, and also some waviness around your repair, if it was as badly stretched as this dent is. If there isn't too much stretched metal, a ball tip will work because it does gather a small amount of metal, but not nearly as much as a sharp tool tip will gather, of course. After that, do a few dents the way you see here without making any over pushes and be as accurate as possible. You'll notice with a bit of practice that you get to a nicer finish level much quicker because you took care of the problem, which was all that stretched metal, of course, at the beginning of your repair instead of wrestling with it later. Your first few attempts at this may look rough, but stay with it and you'll be very glad you did. You'll be amazed at how many problems you've had with your dents just don't seem to happen anymore. Okay, the camera's losing focus here, so I think I'm going to have to stop and zoom out and zoom back in. Give me just a minute here. There we go. I think I'm going to change reflections too. I'll go back to a double stripe. It'll be better for the camera. Yeah, much better. And you notice how much bigger our dent looks now that we moved our reflection back a little bit and put just a double stripe instead of a triple. It's totally normal. Doing these dents with a sharp tip to gather the metal at the impact area will definitely eliminate a lot of these issues. It'll set you up for a much faster and better quality finish with no ghosting because you started the dent correctly instead of correcting your mistakes later near the end. The three most important things to keep in mind when doing these dents are patience, accuracy, and no over pushes. If you're using the wrong reflection for your eyes, it makes accuracy and tool control darn near impossible. You know, I've had a tagline on doording.com since 2005 now that says, "You can't fix what you can't see,
and accuracy equals speed plus quality. If you just keep those two principles in mind, the quality and speed of your work will improve greatly. I promise you, or double your money back. Notice we haven't put a single push beyond about a quarter-size area around the impact point of this baseball plus-size dent. We're getting all that metal around the impact point repaired for free. We'll never have to touch it. Also, the orange peel in that area will be factory, of course. And we are having a little bit more problem gathering that one impact point up. I might have to go in there with a needle tip. We'll see. For right now, I'm just going to stick with the pencil. The temptation is to over push here, and believe me, I want to, but I know I can't. Just be patient, the metal will gather. All good things come to them that wait. I know it seems like it's taking a little more time than it should. It's not. As soon as we're done gathering up that metal, you'll see the results. It'll be coming shortly. Must have hit very close together with that double strike. When we hit it twice with that golf ball, it must have been very close together. Just going to do a little bit of perimeter work here. Well, getting bored yet? This is what it's about, fellas. Patience. Every one of those pushes is gathering up little tiny bits of metal, and that's exactly what we need. I know it seems boring right now. It's like, when is this ever going to end? We're just a couple minutes away, but what you're seeing right now is saving money on the back side of the dent. I'm going to have very, very little finishing to do. As soon as I take care of that stretched metal, there's no way it can come back and haunt me for the rest of the repair. This is where you're making your money, guys, right here. I know it doesn't seem like it, but we are. On deeper stuff like this is what you need to be doing. Unless you want to take a whole lot of time trying to fix mistakes and shoulders and volcanoes and who knows what else. Yeah, now you know why in my training videos I make such a big deal out of being patient. If you're not a patient, detail-oriented kind of guy, this is going to drive you crazy. Till you see the money you make, that is. Then you won't mind it so much. Okay, I think right about here we're done with our pencil tip, and it's safe now to go to either a ball or a tri-pick. I think I'll probably use a tri-pick. And we'll start finally pushing a little bit of metal, because I think we've taken care of our stretch metal issue. You do see a couple of very light mounds in there. I'm not going to worry about it until I get everything flat, because I think most of that will blend right under the orange peel. Possibly one won't, we'll see. And if we do have to do any tap down work at all, it'll just be a couple of seconds worth of tap down. That'd be it. I don't even think we'll have to do that. Okay, I moved my board back, but it looks like I'm going to have to put up a finishing reflection for my eyes. We'll keep the same reflection for the dent just to make sure nothing changes for you guys visually. Oh yeah, that's a whole lot better. I can actually see now. Let's get going. Yeah, it's so much nicer pushing off that finished board, my head away from that blasted camera. You can see so much better like this. Hey, that's the perils of filming dent repairs though, right? We are almost there now, guys. Very, very close. Just stick with us a little bit longer and pretty soon you're going to see it done. It will not take very long now. We're just kind of finishing things up here. Oh, sorry, I had to make a minor adjustment there to my finishing light, but I think we're good to go now. Almost done. Oh, sorry it takes so long while filming to do a dent like this, but that's the way I have to do it if I'm going to show you the details shown here. I can't speedball through it or you wouldn't see much of anything. Fortunately, my eyes are working well today also. And not too bad for one of the oldest still functional dent techs out there. Oh, and full disclosure here, I did lightly hit the camera with the side of my face a few times because it's so close to the camera, but I have to do that to film. No actual dent removal time was edited out. Okay, time to do a quick pan of the dent. We had the overhead fluorescent light about 10 to 12 feet back from the dent. I just wanted to make sure the camera could catch as much detail as it could, and that seems to be the reflection that the camera likes the best. And one thing you got to say about an overhead fluorescent, it shows every nitpicking detail. As far as time to do the dent, didn't really keep track of it, but it's a 21-minute video, so I'm assuming we spent about 10 minutes, 15 minutes max on it. Okay, one other thing I did want to show you is on a dent that deep, especially in a flat panel, it does have a tendency to ghost, which means it kind of comes back over time. When you do them this way, you'll notice that you can push on the area you just fixed. No problem, comes right back.